الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين صلى الله على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
I'm sorry to keep you all waiting a little bit. We had a rally, Yom Al Quds rally, and ran into some traffic. And alhamdulillah, you all meet regularly on our time. So we discussed yesterday the topic of kizb and lying. I just wanted to shed some light on such topics at the end of Ramadan, some big points, to take home, because all the rest of the details are manifestations of these big points. Today I will speak about zulm, injustice. Although the Arabic terms are very deep and very specific, it's just not possible to translate them into English language. All these translations, are kind of somebody's understanding of those words and then trying to use a word to find some kind of equivalent for that. But so zulm is the opposite of adl, and adl is to keep things in their right places. So zulm is the opposite of that, to remove things from their places, not to assign things their rightful places. So zulm is described, and this is again understanding that we as followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have, which is a very very clear understanding of this subject and any other subject. And generally Islam, the way it's understood and explained the issues of justice and injustice, no other religion has expounded on that in this manner at all. So in order to just start the discussion, I want to mention a little story about in the time of Prophet Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam. A woman came to Hazrat Dawood, Prophet David, and she asked, "O Messenger of Allah, is your Lord just or unjust?" So Dawood alayhi salam said that my Lord is just and he will never commit any injustice. So she, and then he asked her, "What happened to you? Why are you asking this question?" So she said, "I am a widow and I have 3 daughters. So I have like a hand loom, they weave like yarn, and then I make like sheets out of that, what we call shawl, shawl, would it be in English? I think shawl. So one day obviously it took me many days, and I made a shawl. So I wanted to go out and sell in the marketplace. So as I left the house to walk to the market area, a big bird came and just snatched the shawl from my hand, and she was gone. Before I knew, it was gone. I don't know if any of you have had this in your life, a situation like that, where an eagle or something like that would come and snatch something from your hand. It happened to me once, because I used to be in Habib Public School in Karachi, and they had big fields, like, hockey field, and I don't know, soccer fields, whatever. And one day I had my sandwich in my hand, and I had no clue that what would happen. I was just trying to eat the sandwich, and this eagle came out of nowhere and snatched it from my hand, and she was gone. Well, I said maybe it was written for her that day. So this is something like that happened to this widow as well. But she obviously she had in all her hopes that she would sell this and get some money for her 3 daughters. So she asked that, how do you explain this? How do you explain this? I don't understand how this happened. So now the moment she said this, she hadn't actually finished speaking, and there was a knock on the door of Prophet Daud's house. There was a knock on the door, and Hazrat Daud alayhi salam gave permission to please come in. And he saw 10 merchants entered the house. And each one of them had 100 gold coins, 100 dinars with them. So they came and put the 10 times 100, 1,000. 1,000 dinar they put in front of me. And they said, this money, please give it to the needy people. Give it to the needy, mustahaqeen. Dawud alayhi salam asked, why is it that you all came together with this money? That why did you come together to give this money? So so they said that we were on a boat and it hit something and it cracked. It developed a crack which could have just broken the ship in the boat into two pieces, two parts. And we were terrified that we are going to sink into the sea and die. And right at that time, we saw this big bird come upon us, and she sat there on the side of our boat, one corner, and she had a big shawl in her claws. So we came and grabbed that shawl from that bird, and we used that shawl to tie that, part of the boat that was damaged, and that saved our life. So in the meantime, we had made a vow, another, a promise to Allah, that if we get through this alive, we are going to pay each one of them, 100 dinar. So Dawud alayhi salam looked at this woman, turned toward this woman, and he said, your Lord has prepared your rizq from the sea, and you think he's unfair to you? Then he gave the whole 1,000 dinar to this lady, and he said, go ahead and spend it on your children. Allah knows your condition and all that happens to you, and much more than anyone else in the world. Please cite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa. So justice is the foundation on which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this whole world. And Imam Ali says, Al-adlu asasun bihi qiwamul alam. Adl is the foundation on which the whole universe stands. So what I was mentioning earlier was that zulm and adl are of three kinds. So I'm going to mention the three kinds of adl. The same three kinds of zulm exist, which we can apply. This is more like a applicable knowledge, which you can, because to practice anything, you need a clear perspective of on something. So if you know three kinds of adl. Adl is in matters of aqidah. One is your worldview, justice related to worldview. What sort of a belief system you subscribe to? So obviously, in the belief system that you subscribe, do you place things where they belong? For example, do you view Allah, the Creator's place, as a rightful place? Do you see the place for example, the Messenger of Allah as it should be? Do you see the place of imamat in your belief system? Everything has a place, right? A logical connection, and that kind of explains the whole creation. And then, so this is adl in one area, adl aqidati. Then we have adl fardi. That means individual adl and justice, which is like justice to yourself. Doing something that is, for example, that your body needs, that your soul needs. Supplying to yourself something that your body needs. So the justice to your body, justice to your soul. And then the third time is the social justice. Social justice, adl ijtimai. That means how you treat other people, because everything in the society has a proper place. For example, why we follow laws? Because if people follow laws, then they will not step on each other's rights. They're not going to trample each other's rights. Everyone's right will be given to it. For example, people pay taxes, people pay, like dues for maintenance of the city. So obviously, so that people can drive safely, so that laws and law and order established is taken care of. I don't know, the schools can do their job. I don't know, other social services can be provided. So obviously, if everyone is being fair to the society, then the society as a whole will function better. If people, for example, find ways to avoid doing their duties, taking care of their rights, the result will be there will be a snowballing effect, and the whole society will have a disruption. So we have three kinds of zulm. There's zulm in your aqidah, zulm of an individual nature, zulm of the social nature. So we are going to just briefly look at these. And there's just so much information on this subject of zulm that we need to avoid. That in this month we learn a lot about ourselves. So start with zulm aqidati. See, in the Holy Quran, shirk has been called a zulm. Inna shirka la zulmun azim. That, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, has a rightful place. Now you must accept the fact that this world was created by one entity, and this whole creation points to a creator, and that creator is wise, all-powerful, all-knowledgeable, and fair and just. So this is like a concept, a clear understanding of this universe around you, that it did not come about by itself. It needs a creator, and the creator is one. And again, this is a discussion that needs more discussion, because obviously it is a subject that has to be understood. Now, for some people, it's just very simple. They say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, tamam. Now, there are others who have a very philosophical mind. So not everyone has a very philosophical mind that would go deep into this subject. So most people, when you say Allah is one, Allah wahid, He is alim, qadir, He is high, all of that, they say, oh, of course, no problem with that. Now, if somebody needs more study on the subject, obviously he's supposed to take classes to clarify in his mind if any doubts or questions come into being. So if a person, let's say, associates partners with Allah, thinks that Allah has partners, He's not alone. Quran says, Inna shirka la zulmun azim. Shirk is injustice. When you do not acknowledge the place of Allah in this universe, the Lord who created you, the Lord who was so merciful, benevolent, providing everything for you, answering whatever your needs, even before you ask, even without you actually knowing that you will need something tomorrow, He's already got this prepared, made ready for you, so you can use it 5 years later, 2 years later. He's already has set everything in motion in a way that you will benefit most from your life, that you can use actualize your potentials. So for a person to deny Allah that place, that no, I don't believe you exist, he has this kind of different kind of skeptical kind of a attitude, where you cannot just accept a simple fact. Obviously, this is a problem. Now we will discuss these kinds, and we will establish today, try to establish, inshallah, that the zulm of the other kinds actually leads to the zulm in aqidah. People lose their iman when they are being unfair to themselves. When they oppress other people, they actually distance themselves from Allah, and it messes up their aql. The aql does not function well. If a person is unjust, cannot have a sane mind, cannot have a rational mind. Okay, another kind of zulm is individual. Zulm on an individual level. See, in the story of Prophet Adam and Hazrat Hawa alayhi salam in Jannat, when Prophet, when Allah said, do not eat from this tree, and they ate from that tree, and they realized that this action was detrimental to themselves, that it was destructive, it was harmful. What they did was something that they did against their own selves. So when they wanted to do tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they said, Rabbana zalamna anfusana. Oh Allah, we were unfair. We did injustice to ourselves. हमने अपने पर जुल्म किया. We did zulm to ourselves. बरखिश जुल्म कर दी, मौ बर खुद सितम कर दी. Yani this, they call this action of eating from that shajare manhiye as a kind of a zulm that they did to themselves. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam quotes this statement from Abu Dharr Ghifari, that somebody wrote a letter to Abu Dharr Ghifari and asked him to give him a gift of knowledge, gift of wisdom. That means give him some kind of advice that he would benefit from. So Abu Dharr replied to his question, and he said, Innal ilma kathirun. Knowledge is abundant. But if you could possibly not be unfair to someone you love, then do that. If you can try not to be unjust to someone you love, then do that. I mean, do not be unjust to the person you love. So when the person got this response, he was surprised. Although the word of Abu Dharr made a lot of sense, but he didn't understand what it means. He wrote back to Abu Dharr and asked him, have you seen anyone who oppresses the person he loves, who is unjust to the person he actually loves with all his heart? So Abu Dharr replied, and he said, your own soul is the most beloved thing to you. Out of all the people that you have in this world, nafsuka ahabbul anfus ilayk. فَإِذَا أَنْتَ عَصَيْتَ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ أَسَأْتَ إِلَيْهَا. So if you disobey Allah, then you have wronged your own self. That means the person you love the most is yourself. When you disobey Allah, you have wronged yourself. Because the reason you could say that, in the obedience of Allah is our kamal. Our physical needs and our spiritual needs are all met when we follow the command of Allah. When we disobey Allah, we hurt our bodies and we hurt our souls, both of them. So we are doing an amal su towards our body and towards our soul when we are doing a sin. Please cite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa. If you look at another hadith from our fourth Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, in one of the du'as, he said, O Parwardigar, O Lord, when we disobey you, we humiliate ourselves, and we do not humiliate you, and we waste our own right. We throw away our own right, not your great right. We do not harm you in any way. We harm ourselves. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not an enemy of anyone. What he has made in terms of laws, he knows that, our bodies and souls need certain things. So that's why he said, this is haram, this is wajib. For example, let's look at this in this context, this the hadith of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. He was in Makkah, and he was sitting by a sufre, like the dastarkhan. So by the food probably was there or something. Yes, he was eating food. And a person came up to Imam alayhi salam while Imam was eating. And he said, are you the one who believes that everything has limits, that there are laws for everything in life? Imam alayhi salam said, yes, I believe that surely there is nothing Allah has created, small or large, except that he made a law for that, a rule for that, a ruling for that. When that rule is violated, then the Allah's rights are being violated. That means if that limit has someone crosses that limit, then the rule of Allah regarding that thing is also violated. So when Imam alayhi salam answered this in this manner, this man who heard Imam's response, he looked at the sufra, the dastarkhan of Imam, and he said, okay, if you believe everything has a law, tell me what is the law about this sufra that you are sitting on? This sufra that you're sitting on, what is the law about this? What is the ruling for this? Imam alayhi salam said the ruling is that when it is spread, when food is brought in front of you, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like we say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And when it is collected, the sufra, it is collected, you should say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise Allah when it is collected. And also that whatever the drops, the pieces of food or bread that fall on the sufra, you collect them. You collect them all in one place. And like, for example, do not throw it in the trash, do not throw food in the trash, for example, So the man, when he heard this response from Imam alayhi salam, he said, okay, what is the ruling? What is the law of Allah regarding this cup? Regarding this cup that is in front of you, what is the ruling regarding this cup? Imam alayhi salam said the ruling for this cup is that you do not drink from the side which has the handle on it or the place where it is broken. Do not eat from that. Do not drink from that part of this cup. Please cite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So basically, Imam is trying to say that everything has a rule. If you don't know it, that doesn't mean there is not a rule. The more you educate yourself, the more you will see the beauty of Islam and the beauty of these commandments, because they will make your life actually more meaningful. Every action you do, for example, like let's say you're sitting on a sufra for food, you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This will count as an act of ibadat for you. Wallah, I'm walking and you have allowed me to walk and do some exercise so I can take care of my health, so I can study, pray, I can help other people do the right thing. See, this becomes an ibadat. If you are going for recreation, well, we've seen in the hadith that, a person will divide his timing in so many ways, and one part for himself so he can rejuvenate the spirit. Well, that means Allah, oh Allah, you like me if I can do something in halal ways to enjoy, so I can refresh my soul, so I can have good akhlaq, and I can take care of my family, I can earn halal rizq and all of that. Well, this recreation, this walking on the beach will also become an ibadah, Obviously, it should not be in the wrong place anyway. Please cite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa So there is a problem with zulm. The problem is that zulm, there are three kinds, right? Zulm in aqidah, when you have a wrong concept about your deen. Like many people, believe that Jesus Christ was Son of God. But this is injustice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. And philosophically, rationally, logically speaking, Allah cannot have a son. Okay. So when a person is being unjust to other people, this is like it blinds his own intellect, because the aql, when it is free from hawa and hawas, then it excels, matures, and functions better. When a person follows and runs after his greed and desires, which lead to injustice, why people become unjust? Because they're following their greed, following their desires, animal desires, because they're following their shahwat. That's why they do injustice to another person. When a person is doing injustice to someone, it is out of his personal, you know, I just want to do this for my own pleasure. And, and in this process, he hurts other people. When that happens, because hawas and aql are two opposites. You can either have aql in control and the shahwat would be in obedience of aql. Or you can have the other way around. Shahwat is in control and aql is a slave to the shahwat. Well, if that happens, well, this kind of aql becomes blind. And aql that is blind means cannot conceive the truth. That means cannot come to right conclusions when he's thinking in a certain way. For example, a person who drinks, a person who does drugs, a person who has, other ways of doing wrong against his own intellect, follows the desires and does not control himself, well, the result is that aql will not function right. That's why we have in the Quran that وَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ الظَّالِمِينَ in Surah Ibrahim, verse 27, Allah will mislead the oppressive people. Allah, yudhillullah, Allah will do is mudil, that means he will misguide the people who are unjust. Now, what do you mean Allah will misguide anyone? Allah does not misguide anyone. Then why is it saying yudhillullahu zalimin? Well, you see, in the end, Allah is in control of everything. Let's say if a person blinds himself and then therefore cannot think correctly and therefore becomes a mushrik, well, he's doing it of his own choice. Now, but in a different way, you can attribute this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also, because obviously all power is in the hands of Allah. If Allah had not given him life to this person, he would not have made a wrong choice. If the fact that a person is alive, Allah has given us power. Even when we are sinning, the power of that is coming from Allah. We are abusing that power, but so we can say that, yeah, indirectly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala misguides, although actually the person is totally responsible for misguiding himself. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa. Maybe a few more minutes. This topic is really very important, that in another sense that zulm, the Prophet of Allah said, ittaqul zulm. Stay away from zulm of any kind. Zulm in your iman, zulm to yourself, zulm to other people. Why? فَإِنَّهُ ظُلُمَاتٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ اتَّقُوا الظُّلْمَ فَإِنَّهُ ظُلُمَاتٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Beware of zulm and injustice, because this zulm will turn into zulumat. Zulumat means darkness. On the day of Qiyamah, some people will have light. Some people will be in the dark. They will not have any light. So the Holy Prophet in another hadith, he said, لَا تَظْلِمْ أَحَدًا تُحْشَرُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فِي النُّورِ. If do not oppress another human being, because if you are able to avoid being unjust to another person, you will be raised on the day of Qiyamah in light, covered by light from outside. So there is no sun on the day of judgment. There's no sun. When they say, no, Suraj Sawa Nizepe, there's no such thing. There's no sun over there. Some people will be raised from their graves. Some will be in the dark. Some will be in the light. So those who are in the dark will see others who are in the light. For example, the munafiqeen on the day of judgment, when they are raised from their graves, they will be in the dark, right? Because of all the injustices they did. But they will look at the mu'mineen who are surrounded by light, and they will come toward the mu'mineen and say, why don't you give us some of your light? And the mu'mineen will reply to them and say, irji'u, go back, wara'akum, faltamisu nuran, and seek for yourself some light. That means go back to the dunya. Go back to the dunya and earn some light for yourself, because there is no more ways. There's no way on the day of judgment to earn any light for yourself. Al-yawm, Imam Ali in one of the khutbahs, he said, Al-yawm amalun wala hisab. In this life, It's all actions and no hisab. وَغَدًا حِسَابٌ وَلَا عَمَلٌ. Tomorrow on the day of judgment is all hisab and no amal. There's no opportunity to act and change your destiny. Here we are able to change our destiny if we are being fair. So this is a broad title, but it can apply to anything you can think of. It's either justice or unjust, just or unjust, fair or unfair. And we need to say some things we may not know it's fair or unfair. Look at Sharia. Have taqleed of a mujtahid, look at the ahkam of a mujtahid, see what he says, haram or halal. If it's halal, that means you are being fair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fair to yourself, fair to others. If it says haram and you do it, that means, that means you are being unjust to Allah or unjust to yourself, unjust to others. Now, which one of these zulm causes the most problems for the intellect? If I ask you all this question, is it justice, is it injustice to yourself that blinds the intellect more? Or is it the injustice to other people that blinds the intellect more? This is a question, and I want the audience to answer this question. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Can I have somebody respond to this question? Did you hear my question?
Molana, can you repeat it?
Yeah, the question is that, so there's zulm to yourself and zulm you do to others. Which one of these two blinds or corrupts the intellect, the aql more? Which has the greater, more destructive effect on the aql? There is zulm you do individually or zulm you do on the other people?
I guess if you what you do on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. You know, if we.
What about the audience? What about the audience?
Yes, I also think that if we do zulm to ourselves, you know, I mean, injustice to ourselves, that is more deleterious, you know, because once I do zulm to myself, then I will more feel comfortable doing zulm to other people too. So self injustice is more harm, I think.
Anyone else in the crowd?
It's like,
if I may, you never realize you are not most of the time you are blinded by what your action. You don't think that you're doing just injustice to yourself, but it is very possible and very easy to realize, and when you do injustice to others. So I think the injustice done on others, it's very easy for you to feel it, to have a feedback from the others on your action. But when you do injustice to yourself, you are blinded by it. You don't know if you're doing it.
MashaAllah, I love the discussion so much. I just love it when somebody responds like that. MashaAllah. Anyone else?
actually, Molana, this is Murtaza. Actually, like we say, I mean, you know, sometimes we act, you know, unknowingly or innocently without realizing that not only we are hurting others, but by that action, we are also hurting ourselves, and the self-respect.
Yes.
Like
that kind of concludes everything. See, it's on others also zulm to yourself too, right?
Yeah, like we say, I mean, you know, like we say, unless you have self-respect, how can you expect others to respect you?
Yeah. So in a way, both answers are correct. But like when you're doing zulm, you know, I want to give an example. Some people might not like it, but let's say hijab. Okay, let's say a woman who obviously Allah has created a woman, you know, beautiful, everything, and she does not, let's say, cover herself properly. I'm not zooming in on any subject, but I'm just saying, let's say as an example, and let's say there are so many people out there, young people who are not able to get married because of their financial situation or whatever, but this catches their attention. It can distract them. It can create them some kind of wrong temptations, which they might exercise in the wrong place. So you see, it's kind of it's kind of something that is not fair to the society. Although now some people might object to that, say, well, you know, it's against personal freedom. You know, how can you impose your ideas on somebody else, dress or whatever, it's somebody's personal choice. But again, it does affect other people sometimes. This says a lot of my personal actions might affect other people as well. Anyway, so so anyone else wants to answer this?
मौलाना साहब, वो एक saying है ना कि इंसान का सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन वो is himself. He is the
Yes.
biggest enemy of himself, is him.
Right. Right. Yeah, of course, they can zulm. When you oppress yourself, that's the worst thing. You know, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma. Each person must help himself, must be fair to himself. The society can be fair. You know, when we are doing haram, let's say on an individual level, but it can hurt other people as well. You know, if let's say the man of the house or the woman of the house starts doing drugs or alcohol, what happens to the kids in this family? So he's ruining his life, ruining the children's life, ruining the life of his wife or her spouse, whatever. And so many things go wrong as a result of that. I'm a counselor. I talk to people all day. Alcohol, drugs, and then gambling and oh God, all kinds of addictions and everything. How they are playing a havoc on this society and its family, that it's like a free for all kind of thing, and it's so bad. And obviously they're messing up their lives first. They're also messing up the life of so many, and they are responsible for that. How can a person think straight after hurting so many people? How can a person be thinking straight and rationally when he has done so much wrong to himself? I mean, even in physiological sense, if a person has been doing drugs, how can he think straight? I mean, that sense too. But even just being unfair to other people, it just screws your mind, you know, it just makes people like narcissistic or whatever, you know, paranoid or whatever. All of these things that go wrong. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us, inshallah. MashaAllah, I like your responses. Inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin.
Allahumma salli